feel great.
Let's go.
Yeah, what is going on, everybody? It's the Awesemo.com NBA strategy show all-star game edition. I'm Dave Loughran at Loughy_D. For those of you podcast listeners, it's LOUGHY_D. Joins here for the first time, I think, on an NBA strategy show. Not sure, but I think so. With Eric Lindquist at Eric Lindquist, breaking it all down with me today. Team Durant, Team LeBron, looking to make up for, what was just a disastrous, catastrophic, label it however you want, Eric, but the worst dunk contest I've ever seen in my life, dude. It was horrible.
I feel like I won yesterday. I had a friend and former coworker have their 30th birthday. And so I was running around in a pool and I saw exactly 0.0 seconds of the entire NBA All-Star weekend.
You won.
I won.
You won. I bet on the 3-point contest because I always do and it's fun. Ended up not prevailing there, but it is what it is. Yeah,
hey, I know Ryan hit on Cat. He had a nice big screenshot. What a monster that kid's turning into in betting as well. He's as if you didn't think that he was good enough at DFS. You should take a look at some of the bets that he's posting on his Twitter. It's outrageous.
He knows what he's doing, man. 3-point contest is one where the thing is, like, they have the 3-point ball, they have the money ball, so it's so odd, but it's fun to bet on. The dunk contest, though, I'm telling you, it was dismal. It was one of Jordan. Did you watch Jordan Klein producing it? Did you watch it, Jordan? Did you watch any of that? Talk to me. You watched the whole thing. Okay. There was maybe one or two good dunks, right? But when you look at like Kilgannon, right? Do you know who he is?
No.
Okay. Kid's the best dunker I've ever seen in my life. Go on YouTube and watch this kid. When you look at some of the non-NFL, non-NBA, like Jordan Kilgannon, you go look at some of the non-NBA dunkers out there, it just doesn't come close anymore. None of the NBA players care. Jalen Green was awful. Obi Toppin was whatever. It was just, you were very lucky that you did not watch this. And even the broadcast team that usually tries to hype things up at the end of it was just like, well, that was interesting.
And that's over. I did see this. So my favorite thing that I saw on Twitter, because again, I was on Twitter during the thing. There was the Squid Game meme where it was like, Jalen Green, now you must complete a dunk. And it was, he could not.
That was like 7 times to do the same dunk because an attempt isn't considered an attempt unless there's certain requirements met. Dude couldn't even get the ball in the air. It was off. I turned off True Grit to finish it, and despite seeing True Grit many times, it was a horrible decision to turn that off. So
yeah, no, True Grit, the ending of True Grit, I'm still not over it.
Sad, man.
Still not over it.
Sad. Are you a guy that'll tear up at a movie here and there?
I will say I have like a real deep soft spot for Westerns. Like
me too, man.
It's like something that I used to watch like Sunday afternoons with my dad. You just kind of like sit back on the couch. You'd watch whatever the early NBC NBA game on was. They always had the NBA. It was like always Madison Square Garden or something. And then it's like, all right, grab me a beer and it's time to watch a Western. We'd put on something and
Dirty Harry.
Oh, Dirty Harry. Obviously just some of the great Clint Eastwood, John Wayne, any of the old school ones, but True Grit, like the redo of it, was really, really well done. Wasn't
Jeff
that Haley
Bridges
Steinfeld?
Is awesome, man.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges is the man.
Matt Damon, the girl from Pitch Perfect 2.
Yeah, Haley Steinfeld.
Oh, look at you. Good stuff. Listen, I have no shame. We're going to get into this and just don't worry. It's one game. It's the All-Star game. I have zero shame in saying that I will absolutely tear up during some movies. No doubt about it. I watched Braveheart again the other day. That'll get you. Well, Mel Gibson. Say what you want about the man, but fella can act. The Patriot, right? Braveheart. Did you see Hacksaw Ridge?
I never saw Hacksaw Ridge.
Good flick.
Okay.
Anyway,
Put that on the list. What's wrong with my voice? Maybe it's, infinity o'clock in the morning here in
What's wrong with your
LA.
voice? It sounds fine.
Sounds lovely. What it is I have a nice timbre going here.
Sounds fine. Are you hungover?
No, not at all. But I definitely consumed some alcohol and had a nice little afternoon yesterday.
True Grit, when he's carrying her, when he's getting home and they got to kill the horse. And
spoiler alert.
Dude, if you haven't seen a movie from 2010 yet, I'm sorry. That's on you. I share no responsibility in that. People know how I feel about spoilers.
Fire.
Anyway, I can't deal with animals dying, and I'd rather see 1,000 people die in a movie than a dog or a horse.
Yeah. I've never mourned over a John Wick victim. I can say that.
No. But when my horse died in Red Dead Redemption 2 at the end, it was devastating.
It's not okay.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
Red Dead Redemption. Way to drop that one in. I appreciate that one.
If you didn't play Red Dead Redemption 2, you're just not living life. And I'm telling you, there's a huge void in your life that will not be filled. You don't know about it, but it's there. Chat will agree with me. Watch chat. If they don't, they're crazy. Anyone who's played Red Dead Redemption 2 just gets it. So,
is that your favorite video game of all time?
Yeah, and I don't play video games really. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I loved Call of Duty, but I'm not good at video games, right? Because I don't put any time into it. So I don't really play live. I just like the stories and stuff, the campaigns. So like I love the World War II Call of Duties, and Red Dead Redemption 2 is the greatest game I've ever, personally, the best game ever, because I like to be absorbed in it. You know what I mean? I want it to feel real, because to me, I'm not good at video games.
You and I have the same experience with it. I have to tell you, if you're looking for one thing, just like deep cut, Assassin's Creed. Have you ever tried any of those in terms of storyline?
Is it immersive? I like the immersive feel.
Yeah. So there's basically, it's like a Montague Capulet. You have like these Templars, and you have these other, like the good guys. You have the bad Templars. You have these other guys, but it's like all these historical fights throughout different time periods. They have like the French Revolution, the Revolutionary War, and they have different characters that are like tapped in through your DNA. So if I'm a descendant of George Washington, they can tap into my DNA and I can experience what George Washington went through and make inferences about it. It's pretty bonkers. Oh, and then you get to murder a lot of people with a cool little knife thing on your arm. It's fun. I
like that.
It's fun.
Let's do it. Okay. Maybe I'll check it out. Last thing here, and then let's get into it. Somebody mentioned Apocalypto, the Mel Gibson movie. That is one of the best movies made. One of the most underrated movies I've ever seen. Unbelievable movie. Now, if you can't sit through subtitles, well, grow up. But if you can, it is 100% fantastic.
Yeah, it is out there and beautiful.
Oh, it's so good, isn't it, man?
It's really good.
That is a great one. Anyway, talking the NBA All-Star game today, Eric's put in the research, and well, look, no matter what you do when it comes to these, there's always going to be stuff that's just entirely unknown and not even quantifiable, because you can't correctly predict minutes to something. Like last year, Giannis had 35 points on 16 for 16 shooting, but he only played 19 minutes. Like LeBron played 12 minutes, I think, last year, Eric. It's hard to say, but I do think there is an archetype, and correct me if you think I'm wrong here. I'm no expert when it comes to NBA All-Star games for DFS purposes, but I do think there are a couple archetypes of players that really benefit more than others when it comes to the All-Star game.
Yeah, I was trying to think about how I wanted to explain that this morning to people, and I think this is the best thing I could come up with. Styles make fights. They also make the All-Star game. Like styles really definitely matter. And not only the kind of player that you've been here, Giannis is, I believe, the best player on planet Earth. And so does it surprise you that in 19 minutes, he has the capability to go completely nuts? Did shoot 3 threes in the middle of that as well. I think it's most impressive. 3 for 3 from 3 to go along with, I don't know, probably 13 dunks. But it's just one of those things where you're going to have guys who want to show out in this kind of a situation. I value guys where it's their first appearance, especially a John Morant starting. I'm going to value guys that I think have some narratives behind them. LeBron James. I mean, this is really kind of building, and it's not recreational building. It's simply just, I think people are so secure about what they believe they think. Like we're going to see YouTube chat, people saying, I think LeBron James is MVP. Well, no shit. Everybody thinks LeBron James in Cleveland is a guy that you should be valuing. But at the end of the day, I don't know. You don't know. Let's embrace that and play DFS.
Let's do it. Talk about the starters here. First things first. Well, and it's showdown format, obviously, right? So you've got these pretty sizable showdown contests for sure. We'll take a look at all of that. By the way, today's show presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. We'll get to that in just a second. But when it comes to the starters, for me, and we can move around here. I don't think we need to go team by team. It makes it easier just to talk about guys that we like, because there's no real here's the thing. There's no real defensive advantage, right? Like these teams they're not going to play defense. There's no advantage there. So let's just talk about the guys that we think fit best. And I just want to throw a couple out there. You already mentioned Antetokounmpo. I think him and Joel Embiid fit really well in a spot like this, because Embiid can shoot insanely well now. I mean, over any defender, but also is a guy that can get into the paint. He's 7'1", right? And then Giannis, you look at him in a game with zero defense. For someone like him to take those antelope-like strides from behind his basket, take 3 of them to the offensive basket and score, nobody's going to defend them. So there are certain players that, can rebound really well, can score really easily without having to jack up like 16 threes. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because Curry, I think, won an All-Star MVP by chucking up 100 threes. But I do think guys like Giannis and Embiid are really interesting for this format.
Yeah, Embiid is really kind of an interesting talking point, because big guys don't necessarily show out in this game. And I'm going back to like the Elam mending. Like I really want to just focus on the last 2 years, primarily with the team setup of being Team LeBron, Team Giannis, not having it be necessarily conference specific. But then you go through, since the Elam mending here, these 2 seasons, Jokic has never played over 12 minutes. You have a guy in Joel Embiid who just has never played any kind of substantial time there. He ended up playing actually 29 minutes in 2020. So scratch that. But
yeah, he had 22 and 10 in that as well.
And Kawhi Leonard went completely bonkers in the Elam mending, where, they closed out the game. They actually played defense, and he ended up being one of the reasons, like that ended up being an extra reason. Just 20 minutes, he won MVP in 2020. Rip Kawhi. But I do like the Joel Embiid shout out, just because, you're going to have to knock down a lot of shots. You got to probably do a highlight reel dunk or 2 to kind of like mix in there. I mean, really, it's appearances, and then whatever that stat line, if you can just bolster it and make it look ridiculous. How many times has Joel Embiid done that in 5 minutes in the first quarter for Philadelphia, where all of a sudden he has 30 fantasy points and the game just tipped off? So I do like the capability he has. Over 40% usage for the last month, it seems like, with the Sixers. And obviously this is an environment where you're around the best players in the league, but he is definitely ascended to a point where I think he's probably one of the guys I would assume wants to show out more than the others.
And I think, and I want to ask you about the Elam ending, just for anybody. I'll have you explain this to everybody. We've seen it since Kobe passed, right? They put
2020.
That in. Yeah. So we'll talk about that, because for people that maybe haven't paid much attention to this, and I do not blame you, by the way, like if you had no idea what the rules for the All-Star game was, I'd almost, want to pat you on the back. But the thing that's interesting to me is this is when I say certain things aren't quantifiable. Like you could look at this and go, okay, Embiid and Giannis are first and second in MVP voting, right? The last game before the All-Star break, the Sixers go into, and just hear me out here, right? Because I'm not trying to make everything narrative driven, but I have a point. They go into Milwaukee to Fiserv Forum, if it's still that, I don't know. And I think it is. They go in there, they get a win in a tight game. Giannis and Embiid both have monster performances. They embrace and show that respect after the game, because we all know how good they are. Now they're up against each other in the All-Star game. And it's like, if both of them do play 20 plus minutes here, there's no doubt that, and I'm not saying it's a competitive nature in that, they're going to be throwing elbows, but just from an overall entertainment standpoint, what's more entertaining than seeing Giannis and Embiid go up against each other and do battle? On the other side, these guys both have big aspirations in the postseason, but that sometimes doesn't matter. So I just look at it as one of these things where, and Embiid's a great passer now too, which helps in a spot like this. If he's in the post and he just starts dishing it out. But I feel like you're definitely going to see, even if they play limited minutes, a high floor on both of these guys, also a high ceiling, because even in limited minutes, I don't see how Embiid and Giannis on different teams aren't going to both have a lot of opportunities when they're at least on the floor.
Yeah, I agree with you there completely. I mean, it's it's showing up. Giannis, sub 20 minutes capable of getting there. Joel Embiid, sub 20 minutes capable of getting there. You can't say that about a lot of the other guys. Even on their own respective teams, they don't garner enough usage necessarily to elevate and ascend to that kind of a level. And now you're putting the best players in the world out there. Now, that being said, there's certain guys that are ball handlers, traditional ball handlers, a John Morant, maybe not Steph Curry there for a starter for Giannis. I think if you told me I have to pick Giannis or Joel Embiid for MVP, I take Giannis simply because I think some of the guys around Embiid, I would say is the quote unquote worst team. I don't really know how to quantify that when they're not trying 100%. And you just kind of look at the makeup of Embiid's team. He probably has more opportunities to be the guy if he wants to, but John Morant and we'll get to DeJounte Murray. Those are guys that I've really got targeted for this all-star game atmosphere because of the way that they play basketball. They can be, the centerpieces of the game. Just, if the crowd gets going, they get a couple of ridiculous dunks in, and DeJounte Murray just does everything. But Giannis, it just feels like no matter what in this game, he's going to have the ball in his hands. He's going to be handling it, coming up the floor. He's going to do some ridiculous things. And it's just a question of, does he play enough minutes to just quantify it? Sure, he can get there in sub 20 minutes, but on his own team is LeBron. So it's hard for me to necessarily go completely nuts with either of them, knowing how popular they will be.
I get it. I do anticipate both of them going all out regardless when they're on the floor. I do.
That's true.
I just don't like Embiid is the type of player that, and you have to factor these. I think you do in the All-Star game.
Agreed.
Like you have to factor in what type of motivation they have. Embiid's the type of guy that feels like he's always been snubbed, whether it's like haven't played enough games for Rookie of the Year, weren't good enough for Defensive Player of the Year, still haven't won the MVP. The guy's just on he's on a mission right now, like just straight scorched earth until he gets what he wants. And I can respect that. So in the All-Star game, I think the only thing to worry about is minutes. That's it. And we don't know. So I'll take that for what it's worth. Explain to anybody who doesn't know what the Elam ending. We can make it real quick, but just so they understand that it's different than it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, it puts a fascinating wrinkle into this. You're playing 3/4 of basketball, so that is normal. You're not going to have to think about anything in that regard if you're betting overs, unders in the All-Star game. First of all, don't do that. Second of all, definitely something that you want to be factoring in if you are. But you get to that fourth quarter and the clock goes off. There's no clock. It's basically, you playing to 24 in that kind of respect. Now, if one team's up by 5 or if a team's, so this is the best example, and it won't be 100-95, but I think that this is a good example. If it's 100-95, one team would have to score 24 points named after Kobe Bryant. So it'd be 124 is the target score for that team. Whereas 124 is the target score also for the team that's at 95. So they would have to score 29 points. Now, if you can live bet this game at halftime, there might be some opportunities to be able to see exactly where you feel like that over-under could be landing at and kind of play out the game script there. Because once it gets to that third quarter, you will know what that final score will end up being.
For sure. All right, good stuff. Now, let me say too, the starters are vastly different from one side to the other. Like Jokic, we have him pulling the most ownership, and I get that at his price and with how talented he is and how robust of a skill set he has. But man, you look at this and you've got LeBron, who knows how many minutes he plays, but you've got Jokic, LeBron, Steph Curry, Giannis, all of them in the starting lineup, right? You have no Kevin Durant for Team Durant. So it's Embiid, it's John Morant, Jason Tatum, Andrew Wiggins, Trae Young. I mean, some ballers for sure, but there's a lot of there's only one ball to go around in this starting lineup. And when you have Curry and Giannis and LeBron and Jokic, that's a lot, man.
Yeah, it's stacked. I mean, it's outrageous. The other side, I said, there's definitely a talent disparity, I would say, between the two. I mean,
which doesn't matter really.
Yeah, exactly. If you played this game straight up, yeah, I would definitely be taking Team LeBron and I'd run away with it. But considering it's not made to be ultra competitive and not made to be that, especially until until the Elam ending. We had that in 2020 where it was very competitive. Last year was not whatsoever. And so maybe you run into something like 2020 this year where you can try to predict what that closing lineup is going to be. But there's just so many guys on Team LeBron that just stand out in terms of like, I think this guy could go nuts. I think this guy could go nuts. It's hard for me to see Andrew Wiggins. Yeah, first All-Star game appearance, but God, he's never been the guy in Minnesota. He's not the guy in Golden State. It's just like, I don't even know what to necessarily do with him. And everybody has some type of utility function in their lineups. And I'm going to try to just assume and figure out ownership wise where guys are going to be landing for utility plays. But in terms of like star shooting out kind of ability, Team Giannis, Steph Curry, LeBron, Jokic, I think all of them have the opportunity that we can all make narratives and we can see exactly how that game plays out where they go nuts. And then, yeah, they're the MVP. But in terms of DFS for us, trying to figure out what to do, who is your favorite guy to target that isn't Giannis on the starters?
Okay. So, well, Embiid is my favorite to target him on the
starters. No, I was saying from Team LeBron. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
yeah.
My fault.
Okay. No. Maybe you said, I might've just missed it, but okay. So non-Giannis, we can do non-Embiid too, because that'll be interesting given how, there's a little bit less, there's a talent disparity there, or at least the usage disparity. So non-Giannis, it's not LeBron. He is one guy that I do think at his age is more of just like, he's there, he gets some minutes. And I think I could just see him deferring more throughout this game. Again, I have to go with my own narratives here because we don't know. He only played 12 minutes. Was it last game, right?
Yeah. 13 last year. Yeah. Last
12. Year. Okay. Yeah. So 13 minutes and was, just modest production. Didn't really do a whole lot, which is fine. In the game, in the other one, it was he was decent. 2020. He played 18 or almost 19 minutes. So it's hard to say. I would likely just go Steph here, because if you see just this bombs away mentality with Steph Curry, who's, arguably the best 3-point shooter to ever live, and he's going to be chucking them up from everywhere. It would be Steph. I know you can argue like Jokic has the rebounding, he has the assist. Sure. But he's also, not out there rebounding. He's not out there rebounding on a team alongside like JaMychal Green, right? And Aaron Gordon. Now it's alongside Giannis and some other guys that can bring in boards. So I like Curry because the skill set's different than the others. And I wouldn't be surprised if he rips off 15, 16 3-point attempts. And if Curry hits 11 of them, because they're all going to be uncontested, right? They're all going to be uncontested threes. Then Curry's my guy. What about you?
So, I mean, I think the field is just going to jam LeBron today. And I think that this is the uncomfortable decision. So I like what you're saying, because I did the NBA slate starter. I covered the All-Star game with Ryan a couple days ago, and we talked through it. And we both kind of were really heavy on LeBron in terms of being in Cleveland. The narrative around him and his team has not been positive this season. It's the least competitive team he's had in a long time. But now with Anthony Davis's injury, I think it actually matters where LeBron James might not go out and play 30 minutes, whereas he might have before. And he's one of the best athletes of all time. If he wants to go and play 30, he absolutely will. He's in Cleveland. It's his team. He's the team captain of it. But I think there's still got to be, there's a part of me that just wants to kind of focus a little bit more on some of these guards. Luka is a guy on his team that isn't starting that I think I'm going to be focused on a little bit. Steph Curry, somebody that as well, you got the ball in your hands, you at least have the opportunity to make things happen. And I think they're primarily going to be the guys. DeMar DeRozan feels like a forgotten person for this all-star team. I just don't know how to translate a mid-range game into having the allure and appeal to like have that be something that people watch over and over for an all-star game
as well.
So like, I think DeMar DeRozan's a complete write-off. I'm probably going to have 0% in any of my lineups today. But Steph Curry, as you said, you can go out and shoot 35 footers, and that's part of the game. And if he gets hot, you are just looking at an opportunity for him to chuck 10, 12 of them. And that kind of creates a difference between, like, Steph Curry went 8 for 16 last year. And because you had Giannis put up a perfect stat line, it became more Giannis on his own team here. You're kind of competing against your own teammates in terms of trying to get that MVP for sure. But I'm going to probably be siding with Steph as well. I would order them if you're just kind of focused on these team LeBron starters. I go Giannis 1. We're both on the same camp there. I'm going Steph 2, Jokic 3, LeBron 4, DeMar 5.
Okay. Love it. Black Main said play all guards with something to prove. Ball, Ja, Wiggins, Luka, Garland, etc. You can take that approach, but also understand that many of them won't get the minutes. Like I think obviously Ja will. I wouldn't be surprised if Garland played sparingly in a spot like this. Maybe I'm wrong, but you see it relatively often. We can get into that and talk about these bench players, which we'll definitely do, or the reserves. But for the starters alongside this Kevin Durant team, you have Embiid, Morant, Jason Tatum filling in as a starter for Kevin Durant, Andrew Wiggins, Trae Young. I think Trae Young, similarly, when we talk about him and Steph Curry, and don't get me wrong, Tatum's a nasty. Like Tatum can fire from anywhere on the floor. Like I totally agree with your DeRozan take. The guy's shooting almost 52% this year. He's been superb. Take nothing away from him. Yep. But when it comes to, and he can get to the cup too. I mean, this guy can get to the rack. But I do think I want that 3-point upside if you're just bombs away, all the time, straight fast break stuff, no setting up, just rip and run. I like a guy like Trae Young a lot, who's somebody that, second time All-Star, but now as a starter, you get more minutes, you get more opportunity because he's becoming one of the more, preeminent shooters in the league and one of the more well-known players. You have to think in the All-Star game too, like what attracts viewers, what makes it interesting, especially after last night's disgusting debacle. And, Trae Young and Steph Curry knocking down threes left and right, Giannis and Embiid going back and forth. That's the type of stuff that draws in an audience and makes it interesting. So I like Trae Young quite a bit.
I'm with you. I'm focused on a lot of guards here today, simply because of the ability to show out from three. And there's some massive big play ability from some of these guys in terms of Trae Young, his passing ability to kind of set things up. Ja Morant, his dunking ability. That's going to kind of be the other thing we'll talk about with Zach LaVine on his own team from the reserves. But I just am looking at Trae Young who can go out there and chuck 12 threes, make 6, 7, 8 of them to go along with some assists, some counting stats. And I think that if this gets close enough, Ja Morant literally just came off of an injury and he played one game. Are they going to really push him 100% to the limit? I don't know. Ja Morant still, I have interest in because of how incredible his game is for this kind of an environment. But I doubt he gets pushed like crazy. And Trae Young, he's kind of been playing those mid-30s minutes for Atlanta. It hasn't necessarily been pushed until a little bit more recently. I think Trae Young's a guy that wants to show out there. This is his second time being here, and similar to Embiid, kind of a dude that always feels a little bit scorned. He has that Adidas commercial where he's talking about how he, got into the league and was always underappreciated, and he's always had the chip on his shoulder. So somebody amongst all of these stars, it would be somebody I would definitely peg to want to show out.
I'm with you. It's not hard to make some lineups you really like today. I do think you have to be careful though with some of these reserves. So I'm looking for and I've always played these all-star games. I am no expert on this, but I am pretty familiar with what can get you into trouble when you're trying to, go down to the bottom and go, oh, well, he's an all-star. He's a good player. I'll just, pay minimum salary for him. And then your Rudy Gobert type, who is an insane impact player in real basketball, generally doesn't do much in all-star games. So we'll talk about that first, though. Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. Throw it up on the screen. Why don't we, Jordan? Look, we're still doing this. I shouldn't even need to do this reading anymore. I should just tell you that if you go to yahoo.com and you sign up using the link in the description or the one that Jordan is putting in the chat right now, you get a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, $90 value, and you play on a great site like Yahoo that continues to put out excellent contests, right? There's a lull in the action right now, but it doesn't matter because when basketball returns, you've got the 50 or higher $1,000 baller each night with phenomenal payout structure, lower management fees. Some people may consider that rake at other sites. If you're not familiar with the term, than anywhere else. And then they just keep growing and keep adding. They do a ton of free contests. A lot of great free rolls as well. And all you have to do is sign up, deposit for the first time. It can be like $10, right? And enter a paid contest. When you do that, Yahoo will email us with your email. We'll hit you up, get you your free month, everything on the site. Player projections, ownership projections, boom bust tool, top stack tool, lineup builder for every sport, right? Like NASCAR, MMA, PGA, NHL, NBA, MLB, if we get it. All of that. You get a free month, every single tool we have on the site, all of them built by Awesemo himself. Check it out. And you can get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on if you want. So, it's not, and I say this all the time, I'm a broken record, but it's not like, hey, get a free month when you sign up at this bad site that no one wants to play on. It's like, no, sign up at a site that, you could win legitimately big money at. You 2x the payouts, even if you min cash, when they're paying out still 20+% of the field, 33% or higher in some contests. Take advantage of it for real. Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. Use the link in the description, one in chat, and get that free month. And be sure to hop into our premium Discord as well. All right. When it comes to these reserves, Eric, what I was kind of alluding to before the read was there are certain players that can be tempting, but are almost a certainty unless they do something wildly different than we've seen in the past, a certainty to let you down. Which of those players do you think that is this year? And then we'll get into some of these mid-range reserves, because that's where it gets really interesting to me.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think many people are going to gravitate towards Andrew Wiggins, but they shouldn't. First All-Star appearance. I know that it's been hyped up whether or not he should be an All-Star or not. I know that he's going into Cleveland, a team that legitimately did not want him. LeBron James playing GM goes and gets Kevin Love, makes a trade. They win a championship. Andrew Wiggins and LeBron have never really been buddies as a result of that. But Andrew Wiggins, first All-Star appearance, I'm just completely writing him off as well. I think everybody's got some sort of utility desire, but he's not going to be a priority for me whatsoever. Another guy kind of like DeMar DeRozan, where, their style of game can be good for a real life basketball sense, a good defender, somebody that has shown some scoring upside in Minnesota when he's needed to be the guy. He doesn't need to be the guy in Golden State, and he won't be on the floor for today. I think gotta be Rudy Gobert. I just don't know a path for Rudy Gobert. You talked about it. You laid out that case about perfectly. So I think that there's really no doubt about it that he's somebody that you just don't want to be going towards. Jared Allen. I love Jared Allen. He's been amazing from a real life sense here. And Cleveland, I think we want to try to find some sort of narratives. This is kind of like maybe an MLB spot where somebody goes in and gets an extra at bat or gets a little bit more run than they would normally get in those circumstances, simply because he plays for the hometown team. But why wouldn't you just roster Darius Garland instead? So I think Jared Allen is probably going to be, for me, like a complete write-off, along with Gobert, where real life basketball just not really going to be capable for it. And then Andrew Wiggins. I would say those three, add those to the DeRozan bucket. I'm just going to be so low on them.
I'll add another one in there. Zach LaVine for me.
Interesting.
Well, he hasn't played since the 11th. He went and saw a specialist. He missed.
Oh yeah.
What's up?
Yeah. I just kind of I was just thinking about the piss poor dunk contest and who can be the savior. Well, bring Zach LaVine out there to do some ridiculous stuff for a couple possessions.
Tell me about it, man. Tell me. But what was it? Him and Aaron Gordon, right? Yeah, that was phenomenal. Look, LaVine's a great player, but I don't know where he fits in here. And I know he was in the 3-point contest and everything, which takes, not much. And he's supposed to return after the All-Star break. But I mean, does it not seem odd that the guy missed 3 consecutive games leading up to the All-Star break, and now he's going to come in and play, sizable minutes? I think it might be ill-advised to assume that's the case. It's not his first All-Star game. He's been here before. So it's not like an insanely special event for him. He's on a team that is, very much in contention as one of the top teams in the East. And he is dealing with a knee problem that, regardless of severity, what a travesty that would be if he aggravated it or re-aggravated it in an All-Star game when he has already missed a week straight of basketball. So that is one spot that, despite his low price, I have some real reservations about that.
That's so weird that I didn't even process that, because I was going through it this morning. Obviously, injury and what you need to do for your team and how many minutes you're playing. I was kind of factoring in all of that and kind of missed the bright one. So taking him out of the pool, you're dead on with that.
Hey, you know who I do like though, man, a lot, because I think he falls into that same category as Curry and Trey for us,
Mhm.
and he's just been on an absolute tear lately. Really want to know where you're at on Devin Booker, because
Oh,
I think his price is really quite nice for us at 5,600 in the utility. Like if you captained Devin Booker, even here, like if you captained him and he ended up playing 20 minutes off the bench or something, I'm not saying it's the best call, but I love that price point. I would just much rather get to him than Zach LaVine or, you know, Chris Middleton or most of those guys in that range. What about you?
yeah, as you said, for me, I'm really focused on the guards, and Devin Booker is somebody that I have highlighted. And I have to say, on his own team, you have LaMelo Ball, you have guys who can really create for other guys. But if he goes out and scores 35 raw points, I don't think it's really going to matter. Like Devin Booker's the kind of guy that
Sure.
even in limited minutes, limited spots here, he could go out and, the reason so many threes are chucked by everybody is obviously it's more of just a run up the court, be entertaining. And then, for at least that Elam ending, you at least have the opportunity to maybe let it be competitive. But I'm with you. I think Devin Booker is probably one of the guys that I'm going to be prioritizing in this game. He's been phenomenal this season, and he's always been the guy that could put up, 70 plus real points in a basketball game. We saw it in Boston, and he's that kind of dude. But now he's just on a good team. He's continuing what he started last season alongside Chris Paul. And I think having Chris Paul like on the other side too, I think that that's kind of a fun narrative to go back and forth with those guys where, maybe they're guarding each other. Maybe they're kind of like in each other's pockets there. And that's it. That's kind of one of the fun things of why they have these teams, Team Durant, Team LeBron. And you're not just having Chris Paul and all the guys that normally match up or that know each other a little bit more familiar regionally. They get mixed and matched. And so having Chris Paul on the other side, I think makes Devin Booker a little bit more enticing. And Chris Paul's played in a ton of all-star games. He's always been a pretty good asset in them. Played 31 minutes in 2021 back to 2020. Let's see. I know he played a lot, 25 and a half minutes. So one of the guys who routinely, regardless of age, has been one of the guys who gets pushed quite a bit. I think you're going to have Devin Booker on the floor, and they're going to probably guard each other just for fun in some of these random spots. So I think Devin Booker, really somebody that I think elevates for me, just kind of playing off of that narrative.
Do you think Paul's going to be seeing considerable minutes on the floor?
Yeah, he just always does. And he's old. He's been a 12-time All-Star,
I just
10-time All-NBA.
He just underwent he just had an MRI on his hand.
Is everybody dying right now? What's going on? Like legitimately, Chris Paul indicates thumb injury might force him to miss some time. Injury suffered a final game before the All-Star break, going through some of this. Just give me the Devin Booker then here. God, am I going to write off a Chris Paul now too? Just because I am very sensitive to injuries when it comes to a game like this.
You should be. Yeah. I mean, there's no purpose in aggravating it. Somebody said when Booker is 1,500 more than Cat, I'm going with Towns. I don't hate the idea. If I'm going cheap, like real cheap into the basement here, I think Towns is fine. I will say though, there's no doubt to me that you have to at least consider what playing time is going to look like. So, I expect, and this could just be wrong, I do expect Booker to play more minutes than Towns. He might not, but I think Towns is fine, right? And as we saw yesterday, dude can rip threes, for sure. So big man that can rebound, pretty well and knock down threes. Cat to me is fine. I'd much rather have him over Gobert, over Allen, over Chris Middleton. To me is one of those guys that just seldom produces in these type of formats. And Jimmy Butler, I'm a bit worried about too with that shoulder.
Yeah. Rinpack really liked Chris Middleton. I don't know really what to say. Chris Middleton, he's a guy, by the way, bless you. My God, I'm a terrible person. I just literally just started talking.
Man. Thank you.
Cool. But anyway, Chris Middleton, 2020, pretty abysmal showing, 2 for 7, 1 for 5 from 3, 5 points, literally like nothing else really in counting in 23 minutes. But when you think of like a closing lineup or like what they might do for an Elam ending, I think he's somebody who probably, for me, fits into it for Team Durant a little bit more. Obviously, you don't have Durant there, so you lose a guy that would generally be a small forward, power forward type there, and he can kind of fit in and play that role for the closing lineup. I don't really see anybody else who does that outside of Andrew Wiggins. So I'm going to play a little bit more Chris Middleton, kind of just than it sounds like you might, just because I look at all the guards, and then you have a lot of bigs, but you don't really have any of those 3-4s. So he's kind of it. So if I'm going to be low on Andrew Wiggins, I obviously have to have some Chris Middleton, but Karl Anthony Towns coming off of a 3-point victory, maybe it's just his weekend, and he's 4,800 over on DK. So I have no problem taking that shot. I mean, you have Jared Allen and Rudy Gobert, the cheapest of the cheap, for good reason. And I think the way their path to being optimal is just, get a bunch of boards, get a double, and you fit into the utility spot in some kind of way. But Towns is a guy I think you could legitimately captain. And I don't think you can say that a lot about anybody else down here.
For sure. I'm with you on Towns. Middleton, I just don't think he gets the minutes.
It's fair. I think he probably does. Look at the positionality of his team. Do you think Jason Tatum playing I guess he could slide over for some three. Just thinking about that Elam Mending closing lineup a little bit more.
I'll be completely honest with you. I don't take positioning into account. Maybe this is a blind spot, but I don't even consider it.
Yeah. All right. That's
maybe
fair.
I should. Maybe I should. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I mean, not really. They could put 3 point guards out there, and nobody would really. I mean, they'd find that funny and entertaining, and something that could be done. So you could have LaMelo, Trae Young, and I don't know, DeJounte Murray sharing a floor there. Yeah, but and plus the Elam Mending, because there's only 24 points available. It's not like you're going to accumulate more stats. Like the 3 quarters that happened previously are far more important for fantasy purposes. But it's simply just to have them on the floor for a longer amount of time. And, it's guaranteed run for things where you can get blocks and steals and kind of accumulate that way when they're actually trying.
For sure. We got the Daytona 500 today, Eric.
Woof. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, not playing it?
No, I love DFS, and I'm definitely playing NASCAR, but I'm saying that for me, it's like legitimately the one sport I will never understand. And I've just accepted that about myself.
I don't understand it at all, but there are huge prize pools, and that's all that matters. Right? You know what I mean? There are certain sports that doesn't matter, man. And we got a great crew of guys too. Like 1:30 live before lock today. You got to check it out. You got all of the, Chris Pinnell, you got Phil's awesome, man.
Phil's a monster.
Jason Floyd hosting that show. And we got the promo too, green flag. You don't even have to type it in. If you just go to awesemo.com/promos, for $70, you get everything NASCAR for the entire year. It works out to like $2 a race. No better time to get in than now. You get ownership projections, the driver projections, the top driver tool. When you look at like our tools, simulation tools are the best that you're going to find out there. Top driver tool is fantastic. And I know so many people that win with like the top fighter tool for UFC or top golfer tool for PGA or the top driver tool for NASCAR that don't really know the sport. They just use this to find leverage, right? And that's what is so important in today's DFS. So awesemo.com/promos, just click it. You don't even have to go and use it to type it green flag and just click it. It'll take you there. Take advantage of all of that. Today's the last day it's available. So if you're going to do it, get in before the Daytona 500 kicks off, because you got millies on the line, baby. All right. So I'd like to build a lineup here, Eric. And by the way, thanks you guys for hanging out with us. We got almost 400 people watching. So it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Nice.
An all-star game.
I'm going to say there are massive prize pools. I would say even more massive than what I was expecting for it. I mean, you have 100K to first on FanDuel. You have 100K to first on DK. You have, 50K even for like the dollar iteration if people are playing in that. Like you have so many great contests. It's a great time to be there. And, obviously I've got PGA Showdown that locks in 13 minutes. I've got NASCAR. I've got NBA All-Star Game. No days off. We'll put it that way. No days off.
Yeah, man. And I think I even forgot at the top of the show. I was so excited to talk about the All-Star game. It's actually more fun than I anticipated. I kind of enjoy it. I don't mind.
Maybe it could be the company. You don't have to stare at Josh Engelman or Adam not listening to you. That could be it.
It is you. You know what it is? Sometimes it's fun to just talk narratives and stuff, like where you don't have to worry too much about you can't go into this analytics based. You just can't do it. Right. Like you can look at past data as we've done, no doubt about it.
But you can use kind of what you know in the back of your mind where it's like, oh, Embiid and Giannis, 10 minutes, they could put up a zillion fantasy points.
Exactly.
And there aren't many guys on planet Earth who can do that, period.
Right. And as long as you know the archetype of these players, as long as you know how NBA DFS works and type in terms of like, can you hit this as you meant in this amount of minutes, that takes you a long way here. And it's fun. Sometimes like some people are talking about, hey, LeBron's coming to Cleveland. It's a Cleveland. Maybe that is more reason for him to play. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong with that stuff because I don't know what these coaches are going to do. And I don't know how the rotations are going to look. We can only go off of what we've seen in the past and what we think happens here and what style of player these guys are. But we're 18 away from 100 likes. I know it's far-fetched, Eric. It'd be a very impressive ratio here, but 100 likes, maybe we get there. Maybe we get there and subscribe to the channel. It's doable, Eric, but it might be lofty expectations for an all-star game.
It can be done. It can be done. And I know we're going to have a lot of you guys back for Live Before Lock. I'll be on that this afternoon. Looking forward to talking about it again and, kind of having a more concrete idea, of exactly what it is I'm planning to do. I mean, I have kind of my game plan, but no Zach LaVine, no Chris Paul. Let's take them off the board here now, included amongst some of these other guys stylistically that we don't think fit. But I have an opinion, but understand that, like, for me, mostly this is playing DFS. Like, I think there's just going to be players I want zero of, and I'm going to take just a hard stand. And if it burns me, it burns me, because I don't want to just be taking scattershot approach for this. And then the guys that I have narratives that I really like, I'm just going to be going massively overweight and, play the game of DFS more so than, play some of the ownership game rather than say, I think this is going to happen. And I am concrete. And I understand that there's no other way that is going to happen. There's no way of looking at that analytically.
No doubt. 100 likes, by the way, north of 100 likes.
You guys are awesome.
Like that. Boom. Appreciate you guys. Happy Sunday. You're right though. And I will be taking stands and I think we're in line on some stuff. I think we're a little bit different on some other stuff, but it's okay. These are all of the best players in the league, right? Save for a couple of injured guys. So you have to do like with me, LaVine, Chris Paul. These are two guys that one of them not playing in a week prior to the All-Star break, going and seeing a specialist for his knee. Jordan, you said he just got his knee drained, right? So
it's a great word.
I can't feel encouraged by that. Chris Paul's got a wrap on his hand or a soft cast or something like that. And the best team in the West looking to revenge last year's NBA Finals loss to the Bucks. Come on now. There are certain spots that I'm willing to get away from. And if Chris Paul plays 20 minutes and it burns me, I can eat that. I'm okay with that. But I think we've done a pretty good job of breaking it down. I'll throw this to you before we build a lineup and head out. A couple guys we haven't talked much about, right? Ja, Tatum. I don't think either of us are really enamored by Andrew Wiggins at all. I don't think we need to get into LaMelo that much. If LaMelo gets minutes, he could be phenomenal. Donovan Mitchell, any other guys like that we haven't talked about that you want to get to?
LaMelo Ball might be my favorite target.
Yeah, I love it. Good price.
Good price. First All-Star appearance. He's replacing Kevin Durant, so it's not like a de facto thing. But hey, doesn't matter. Had sex, like it still counts. Like it's an All-Star appearance. So I'm pretty happy about it. You did not pick up on that reference.
I'm sorry. Go back up. Go again.
It's okay. No, I just threw out doesn't matter. Have sex on a morning show at 7:50 a.m. From I Just Had Sex, Lonely Island, SNL.
Oh, I absolutely hate Saturday Night Live. I've watched zero Saturday Night Live.
There it is.
Since like the Sandler Farley days and the Norm Macdonald days. Even Norm Macdonald, who is my favorite all-time comedian, I did not think Weekend Update was all that good. So that's just an idea of where I'm at here. Now,
so LaMelo Ball, really good play. You should roster him a lot.
Lonely Island is the band that what's his name is in.
Yeah, the guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. The name. Help me out, Jordan Klein.
Yeah, and from I like him. He was from the Daredevil
Andy
movie.
Samberg.
Yeah, Samberg. I only know that because Norm Macdonald did an interview with him and asked him about the Lonely Island and how they came up with the name, and it was like an apartment that they lived in. So good stuff here. But yeah, are you a big SNL guy?
No, I mean, I'm not a stan or anything, but I know the conventional, like the most famous parts of it. That would be, I mean, Dick in a Box, and that would be like your two most famous things that have come out of SNL in a long time.
But for me, it's like Down by the River, right? In a van down by the river.
I got that one. I got that one, Loughy.
Do you know who that was?
Adam or Chris Farley. Come on now.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not, this is not Little Tykes over here. Come on. I got this covered. But yeah, LaMelo Ball, you should roster him in bulk. I don't I don't know how you don't play this guy a lot. It just makes a lot of sense. Him and DeJounte Murray, both first All-Star game appearances, both guys that can accumulate fantasy points very quickly in any game, in any spot. They pass, they rebound, they shoot, they do it 3 different ways. And fantasy points matter a lot. And when you can accumulate them a lot of different ways, I just don't really know what else to say. They just really stand out. LaMelo amongst his peers here, amongst the elite. This seems like a spot where there's narratives about him pointing to half court and chucking up a shot or two. If that goes in, you could be looking at massive heat check. Jordan Klein got a little aroused when I said that. Yeah.
Really?
Well, that'd be fun.
Shaq is the man.
I don't know. I love that man.
Him and Chuck, I mean, inside the NBA, it's one of the greatest things ever created. Fact. Really is. Ernie does a phenomenal job of moderating the madness. And then Kenny just kind of sits there. But it's good stuff, man. All right, Eric, let's build a lineup here. We got our likes count up. We're doing great. Talked about Yahoo. Told you guys it's the last day for Green Flag. And if you just want to get an Awesemo sub, weekly, monthly, annual, whatever it is, one sport, every sport, all the tools, like I said, Awesemo himself built these in his one good money, one might say, along with many of our subs using these tools. Just go to awesemo.com/join. We got you covered on any front, no matter what style of player, what your budget, how serious you are. Check it out. But I think it's time to build a lineup here.
Let's do it.
So here's the thing. I don't think it's all that crazy to just, like, if you wanted to captain one of these top guys, even in a large field tournament, because there's so many different ways to get different. For example, LaMelo Ball, we're projecting it like very little ownership. So I don't mind throwing it in. Let me kick this one off. Let me go with my boy Joel. Let's just see how this plays out. We'll go Joel because I think he just might be on a, maybe a madman tonight, and I'm willing to take some shots, and let's go from there.
All right. So let's not just take some shots. Let's captain him. Let's go to, I mean, again, I know it's a first All-Star game appearance and it can go both ways, where you can have the narrative that they are terrible for it. But like LaMelo Ball checks every box in terms of what you want to see in an All-Star game. He's a highlight reel dunker. He has the ability to distribute and do some amazing things for teammates. He can, do the point at the deal from 3 and accumulate fantasy points, over a 1.35 guy on the season here. And again, not that we're going to be looking at rates and having that be the say all end all, but he's somebody that I do want to be invested in. So I'm clicking on LaMelo next.
No arguments from me, man. We can build some really good lineups with a lot of top players, so I have no concerns about doing this. I'm going Giannis. I'm going the Giannis v. Embiid style here, and we're going to have some fun with it.
I think those two are going to be popular clicks, and they should be. They're going to be two guys that I'm overweight to. I don't know what their ownership's going to end up at, but it doesn't really matter. They're the two guys who produce at the highest clip in the league. So in limited minutes, they're the guys that have been the centerpiece of the MVP discussion for multiple years now. I mean, you put Jokic into that mix, and it just seems like Jokic doesn't necessarily always get the run that you're looking for. He played 12 minutes in 2020, going back to last year. That total was 19 minutes. I just don't see him kind of being somebody that's going to shoot out in this kind of a spot. So John Morant's coming off an injury. I'm probably going to be shying away a little bit more than what I was thinking about there as well. Let's go to Karl Anthony Towns at 4,800. I'm just finding the salary savings down here a little bit more. Karl Anthony Towns makes all the sense in the world. So I definitely want to click on him coming off of a 3-point victory. Sometimes they just ride the momentum of the entire weekend. We've seen that with Levine in the past. I think we could see it with Cat here too.
All right. I think that's great. I like both of those salary savers. So we're on the same page. Curry's tough to get to here. Like, is it possible that you go to Curry and then a Booker in a spot like this? You actually can do that. I think that'll be a popular lineup. Yeah. And it's sick though. But let's try something a little different. Why not? And I think you can very much captain this player as well. I'm going to go Trae Young here as a starter on the non-Giannis, Jokic, Steph Curry, LeBron team, but on the Joel Embiid team with Andrew Wiggins playing alongside of him as well. So I think you could see a big game out of Trae Young.
I think you definitely could too. I would. I'm thinking about DeJounte Murray, but I probably don't want to have 3 point guards from the Kevin Durant team in the same lineup. I'm going to have almost no consideration for 5-1, 4-2, 3-3 in terms of the other sides, but I don't necessarily want to get 3 point guards from the same team in the same lineup. I would probably click on DeJounte Murray, but I'm going to go away from that. Let's just go to our boy, Devin Booker here, 5,600 flamethrower. We're leaving 1,600 on the table. Go ahead and leave a lot of salary on the table in these spots. I mean, Embiid and Giannis are going to be naturally owned as a result of that. Steph Curry maybe a little bit less so, but I do like that we're getting away from LeBron James here. I like that we have the opportunity to get away from some of these other mid-tier plays that just don't make a whole lot of sense. This is going to be a very popular build, kind of something towards what I'm going to be doing a lot today.
You got it, man. Sean, who did I not love 15 minutes ago? I don't know. I'm not sure who we're talking about. Maybe he's talking about Jared Allen. I'm not. I don't think Jared Allen plays more than a few minutes. Tampa's crazy Carl. We do have ownership for and projections for the All-Star game, believe it or not. Love anyway, hey, last thing here. And if you're playing a smaller field tournament, right, if you wanted to swap Curry in for Trae, you can do that and it works. If you're not too worried about ownership there. But oh no, Sean, I didn't say I don't like Towns. I said if I'm going to Booker, I prefer Booker over Towns, but I have no issues with Towns down there. Among the guys that are down there, like Middleton, Garland, Gobert, Allen, Butler, I prefer Towns over them. I just like Booker over Towns, to be clear.
One guy that I want to get your opinion on, because I don't know what I want to do with him, but he's always just like, he fits a man scorned narrative. And Jimmy Butler, do you have any interest going his direction?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
He's also a guy, and this might be nothing. He's been dealing with that aggravated shoulder.
Yeah.
It could be absolutely nothing, right? Some guys are just listed on injury reports and they're going to play. Again, I think he's fine. I still prefer Booker because I don't, again, know how Butler's game translates here. He's not a 3-point shooter, right? And when he is, he shoots 1 for 8 like he did in that double overtime game the other night.
Yeah.
He's just, I don't love Jimmy Butler. I think he kind of falls to the wayside a little bit. Give me a guy in Booker that if he gets hot, he can rip off 15 3-point attempts. So it might be the wrong approach, honestly, Eric. I just don't mind those guys that can light it up from beyond the arc. Because a lot of times that's where the big production comes from. Because you're competing for peripherals and assists with a lot of other guys who are great at that. When it comes to 3-point shooting, if you're just firing away and getting hot, you're going to keep getting fed the ball.
Well, not only that, like I say that I don't have any consideration towards 5-1, 4-2, but I think most of my builds, I mean, we built a 5-1, but most of them are going to be more in the 4-2 territory because it's going to be very easy for players on both sides to get a ton of statistics. And so you kind of just want to try to get as many minutes as you possibly can into your lineup and let whatever happens. You have guys like Embiid and Giannis, LaMelo, whomever else who are massive. They're all massive fantasy point per minute producers. And so like when they're on the floor, there's a chance for them to go completely hookers. All in all, we just want to get the minutes that as many minutes as we can. So more 4-2s probably than anything else for me.
All right. Final thoughts here. By the way, shout out to Jordan Klein producing today's show. Both of you guys on the East or on the West Coast, 7 a.m. Early starts, boys. But final thoughts here. MVP for the All-Star game. We got Giannis at plus 450. We have Ja at plus 550. We got James at 6-1. LeBron at 6-1. Embiid at 7-1. Curry at 10-1. I'm going Embiid just because I don't see why the odds would be 7-1. And I think he's on a rampage. So I'm just going to stick with that.
25-1 Devin Booker. That seems pretty fun.
And Jokic is 25 to 1.
Jokic is 25 to 1. I mean, here's the thing. Jokic, the last 2 seasons, unless something just flips. I mean, the guy has no Jamal Murray there. He has no Michael Porter Jr. there. He has just had to do everything for this Denver team. And it seems like he's not a guy who really gets up for these all-star games. He's never played over 20 minutes here. I'm not really looking at trying to go there. I do want to get enough minutes to have it be somewhat sustainable there. But everybody in the chat saying that LaMelo Ball is not live to show out in this game, 45 to 1. I think that's my favorite long shot if you were trying to sprinkle something in, but no doubt about it. Joel Embiid, considering he's the longest of those 4 that are all getting less than 10 to 1, I'm with you. I think that's my favorite pick, 7 to 1.
Cool. And I think he's there because he's just not on nearly as good of a team, right?
Yes.
So, but if you win with that team, you're probably the guy.
Yes.
So why not sprinkle a little bit on that? We'll have some fun. Thanks to you guys, as always, for hanging out with us. 130 likes, man, on an all-star game show. Over 400 people watching us to wrap this up. Follow Eric at Eric Lindquist. Follow me at Loughy_D. And shout out to your boy Jordan Klein for producing NASCAR Live Before Lock, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Then at 6 and 7, you got the NBA Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock taking you all the way up to tip off for the 2022 All-Star Game. Appreciate you guys. We'll catch you back here soon. Peace.
Eric, Coach.